Any confusion of responsibility and ownership in our lives is a problem of boundaries. Just as homeowners set physical property lines around their land, we need to set mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual boundaries for our lives to help us distinguish what is our responsibility and what isn't. As we see in Sherry's many struggles, the inability to set appropriate boundaries at appropriate times with the appropriate people can be very destructive. What is going on, EQ gangsters? This episode is sponsored by Classical Conversations. It is a K-12 homeschooling program nationwide. You can check out more information about Classical Conversations at classicalconversations.com. That's actually the homeschool program that my awesome wife and I have been using with our daughter for the past decade. We absolutely love it. It is the bee's knees. Okay, this episode is on boundaries. Boundaries are such a powerful tool. Now, for those of you watching on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, I'm holding up a book right now called Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. I cannot recommend this book enough. You can get it on Audible, you can get it from the bookstore, or from a bookstore or whatever, but it is When to Say Yes, How to Say No to Take Control of Your Life. Again, Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. Absolutely phenomenal book. So that being said, there's an entire book written by a clinical psychologist of 30 years. Dr. Henry Cloud is a practicing clinical psychologist and has been one, again, for 3 to 4 decades. So I am literally going to do a quick episode here on the power of boundaries, and not just the power of boundaries, but specifically what I'm going to be talking about. My angle about boundaries is going to be a boundary audit. When is the last time you have done a boundary audit in your life? What boundaries do you have personally? Make a list. Make a list. This is, workshop here, right? Exercise here. Make a list of all of your boundaries that you have in your personal life. What are some boundaries that you have in your professional life? Now, when you've got those listed out, each of those for personal boundaries, professional boundaries, how are each of those boundaries in each of those areas serving you? How effective are they? And you can even, on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being very effective, 1 being not effective at all, how many of those boundaries do you consistently enforce? How many of those boundaries have you communicated clearly and effectively? So that question should come before the enforcing one. So, and then another one is why? Why do you have each of those boundaries? Where did those boundaries come from? When did you start those boundaries? Really important questions. I'm going to read you a few things here, excerpt from the book Boundaries. So, page 26. Now, this is coming off of the tail end of a story that he shares in here. So the context is not going to make total sense, and that's fine. I want you to get the actual points I'm making here. And again, every scenario is different, but this is this particular scenario. Trying harder isn't working. Have you had a time in your life where trying harder isn't working in your life? Second, being nice out of fear isn't working. Because this particular person that he was talking about, this lady named Sherry, is a people pleaser. I'm a 4-decade recovering people pleaser addict. Third, taking responsibility for others isn't working. Do you or have you taken responsibility for others' behaviors? In your family and at work, in your business, at your job. Do you take responsibility? Maybe it's not even physically. Do you take mental or emotional responsibility for others' behaviors or others' tasks and responsibilities? Okay, a couple other thoughts here. Any confusion of responsibility and ownership in our lives is a problem of boundaries. Any confusion of responsibility and ownership in our lives is a problem of boundaries. Here's another great question. I do this exercise with some of my coaching clients. List all the areas in your life that cause you stress. What are all the things that cause you stress right now? And I'll even do this. I call it the stress plate. Draw a plate on a sheet of paper and put all the things that cause you stress on your plate. Okay, then next to each one of those things that cause you stress on your plate, what percentage of stress, of your plate of stress, what percentage, list a percentage of the amount of stress that each of those areas causes, right? For me, my weight, because I'm still overweight, I'm still struggling with I'm still really going through that deal with my weight and the relationship, my emotional relationship with my weight. I'd say 60% of my stress, maybe even 70% of the stress in my life has something to do with my weight and unhealthy eating. And let's say my business is 5% of the stress on my plate. So go through each of those things that cause you stress and what percentage does each area cause you stress. Just as homeowners set physical property lines around their land. So I'm reading off the book now for my podcasters. I'm reading off the book here. So this paragraph is from the book. I didn't say that earlier. Any confusion of responsibility and ownership in our lives is a problem of boundaries. Just as homeowners set physical property lines around their land, we need to set mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual boundaries for our lives to help us distinguish what is our responsibility and what isn't. As we see in Sherry's many struggles, the inability to set appropriate boundaries at appropriate times with the appropriate people can be very destructive. Do you have any people in your life? So now back, this is me now, not reading out of the book. Do you have any people in your life that try to get you to take responsibility of situations and behaviors that are not your responsibility, that you have not agreed to take responsibility for or of? I had a guy tell me, well, Noble, it was so funny, some emotional control and manipulation. He would use disappointment as one of his emotional control tactics and techniques. And I don't even know if he realized he was doing it, to be honest with you. He wasn't open enough to even consider that he would be doing this. I don't even know if he would be able to admit that he was doing this. But he would say, I'm really disappointed. I really thought that you would be part of the solution to fix this organization that has issues. Now, I had been a part of this particular organization for a long time. And for years, I made a lot of efforts, everything that I felt like I could control to impact and change and influence and improve this particular organization, all to no avail, because the organization itself is a narcissistic organization, which is created by narcissistic leaders within an organization. How does an organization become narcissistic when the leaders in the organization are narcissistic? But that was the conversation. Well, Noble, I'm just really disappointed and sad that you will not take responsibility for making this organization better. And I had a boundary. I'm like, number one, it's not my organization. It's not my company. I'm not getting my name is not on the in the organizational documents of the founders of the organization. I am not a founding member, and it's not my organization. So I've tried for years to help change and improve and influence the organization, all to no avail. So no, I'm absolutely not taking the monkey that you're trying to put on my back. And so just something to think about. Do you have other people in your life who are trying to make, maybe it's their problem, your problem? Are they trying to make their issue, their tasks, their failures, their mistakes, your responsibility? Do you have the self-awareness and the social awareness to realize that somebody is trying to make their monkey your monkey? So, which is another great question to think about and chew on. So back to the audit, the boundary audit. That exercise that I blew through very, very quickly is very, very important. I would encourage you, schedule a time in your calendar, even 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Can you carve out 15 minutes in your day and ask yourself those questions that I asked earlier on? What are your current boundaries, personally, professionally, right? How are they serving me? All those are the questions I had. But then also, here's a question that I didn't ask. What are some, again, okay, so here's another one. This is money. Okay, so where are those stress areas? Pull out that stress plate again. Where you have stress areas, are there some boundaries that you can create to help reduce some of those stress areas? Or maybe some of your boundaries are causing you stress. Why? Why would a particular boundary be causing you stress? Again, have you communicated it effectively? Some people, I did this early on when I was still learning this stuff. I would expect you to honor my boundaries without me telling you my boundaries. I expected you to be a mind reader, to have ESP and read my boundaries and know and understand my boundaries and respect my boundaries without me telling you. How dare you? I can't believe that you're not honoring. Dude, I remember, guys, true story. Buddy of mine, he was really upset. I could tell, nonverbals. Hey, dude, what's up? And it took me multiple times because he, anyway. Dude, I'm fine. No, obviously you're not fine, dude. What's up? No, I'm fine. Bro, it's very clear his particular personality is a choleric personality or dominant personality from the DISC model, or choleric if you're personality plus. And cholerics and dominant personalities do not hide their emotions well. Most of the time, most cholerics, most dominant personalities do not hide their personality well. So, or their feelings. So whatever they're feeling, you know it. If they're happy, you know it. If they're mad, you know it. If they're sad, you know it. And so I said, bro, stop. Like, I know you're upset. I know something's up. What's going on? And so he said, well, I'm just upset that, you're my friend and, you haven't done a couple things. I'm like, well, okay, well, you tell me. Like, I'm all open. I'm all, all wide open ears, open ears, whatever. And he told me, and I said, dude, when did you tell me those expectations that you had of me as a friend? He said, well, I didn't. I said, well, how on earth do you expect me to? Number one, I didn't know. You never told me. Number two, I didn't even have an opportunity to agree or disagree to those expectations of me. So, which is all part of a friendship. And again, if you have boundaries, communicate them. If you have expectations, communicate them. And then that other person obviously has the opportunity and the freedom to either accept or not accept those expectations or boundaries that you may have of them. So anyway, I really encourage you guys to do a boundary audit. Schedule a boundary audit. And if you need to add some new ones, if you need to take some old ones away that are no longer necessary or they're not serving you anymore, remove some, add some new ones, personally and professionally, to make sure so that so you want to create those boundaries to serve you, so that you can serve those that you are called to serve more effectively. It hurts us and others when we don't know, identify, create, enforce our own and communicate about our own boundaries. So that's my encouragement for this episode. Set up boundaries for yourself. Emotionally healthy people help heal other people emotionally. If you don't deal with your emotional issues, your friends, family, and coworkers will be forced to. So keep that in mind. Every day, in every interaction, we're on the receiving end of each other's emotional intelligence or lack thereof. Thank you for rating, reviewing, subscribing, sharing this episode or another episode that you feel is very helpful. Thank you for taking 15 seconds, 20 seconds, if you wouldn't mind. As soon as this episode is done, if you can take 20 seconds to just rate and review the podcast, it would mean the world. Again, if there's a particular episode, or maybe this episode that you think could help somebody else that maybe struggles with boundaries, they don't have any boundaries, either to read Boundaries, the book by Dr. Henry Cloud, and or to check out this particular episode.